mother, it's time for another episode of Birds with Friends. Just the
duo
of feathery brethren, weathering any season to see the Eagles eating teams like Scrammy's top with cheese. It's Philadelphia. Wulf and Zach kicking it cooler than
two.
When still Zach runs off with his valet keys. He's a real nuanced goose. Pull up a branch, get loose. It's time for some juice on some Birds with Friends. The early bird gets the worm, but prefers getting turned like a turn on some Birds with Friends. Wulf and Zach coming at you with stats and things flapping.
We are going to rip out the hearts of other podcasts. We are going to bite off their eyeballs. We're going to start every segment watching the scene from The Last of the Mohicans where the guy takes a bite out of the other guy's heart. We may not be good, but we're going to be nasty. We're going to reflect the blue-collar nature of this city. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Birds with Friends on a Wednesday afternoon. Bo Wulf, Zach Berman, Marissa Dunn, plenty to get to. About the 12-1 Philadelphia Eagles. We'll have a little bird on the street, what we've learned over the past couple of days at the NovaCare complex. We're going to have a bit of an extended Jalen Hurts conversation, a bit of a check-in on some of the ways that he has gotten better this season. I feel like we haven't maybe fully dived into that, so we'll have that. And then we're going to be joined by Kalyn Kaler late in the show to talk about some league-wide stuff, get her thoughts on the Eagles. You know, what's it like working for The Athletic? All that good stuff. Marissa, how are you?
I'm doing great. People think I got my hair done. I just actually put a brush through it today. Big day over here.
Good for
but yeah, super eventful Wednesday in Cleveland. How are you guys doing?
Zach, what's poppin'?
Doing well. Excited for this podcast. Exciting week going on here. We go to Chicago this weekend. It'll be nice.
It's going to be cold.
And it will be cold. And some news to get to at the top. So, yeah, looking forward to this pod.
Casey Wulf, 5 years old, big day.
Yes. Happy birthday, Casey. How
Thank
do
you
you
very
feel?
much.
You have a 5-year-old.
You know what is weird? I was thinking about when Casey was born. It was the 2017 season. So this podcast is older than my son, which puts things in perspective, I guess. Does it?
It shows that people who've been along for the ride have seen you mature as a father in addition to a podcast host.
It's your first baby. Your first child, the podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's true. To some degree. Okay. All right. Why don't we let's get into this bad boy. Let's send it over to the Stone Cold Newsman, Zach Berman, who's got the latest on the moving and shaking with the Eagles roster, some injury fallout, and what is going on with the league leaders.
The Philadelphia Eagles have a walkthrough this afternoon, and as they have their walkthrough, they will have Dallas Goedert on the field participating. Dallas Goedert's 21-day practice window has been activated. It would certainly seem that if he gets through this week healthy, he will be on the field Sunday against the Chicago Bears. We'll see there. The Eagles do have an open roster spot. That is because they put Aaron Sipos on injured reserve, and they signed veteran punter Brett Kern, as Bo predicted on the podcast Sunday night.
Shout out Analytics.
To the practice squad. And they also added Anthony Harris to the practice squad. Now, I received messages from fans last night when this occurred. Why would the Eagles put him on practice squad if they need him? Well, they can elevate him for the next few weeks. And I understand there's a threshold for when they can do that. It's essentially like paying something with a credit card, right? The Eagles are figuring that at some point here, there's going to be a spot that opens up. And so they'll put him on the 53 down the line, but they have some flex, I assume at least, but they have some flexibility in these next few weeks, and or they can do that, and then they can open up a spot for Goddard, and we'll see what happens thereafter. There, Anthony Harris, who was with the team last season and was with the team during the summer, the Eagles made him somewhat surprise cut right before the season started, and he spent a week on practice squad, was in Denver for a bit. He is back now with the Eagles on the practice squad, so it gives them someone who knows the system in the event that that Reed Blankenship can't play this weekend. Finally, Brandon Graham named named NFC Defensive Player of the Week, second time this season. So has never won in his career until this year. Wins it for the second time, joining Seth Joyner and Eric Allen as the only two players in franchise history to win Defensive Player of the Week twice in a season. Back to you in the studio, Bo.
Hey, thanks, Zach. Appreciate it. Let's start with Goddard. I do feel like there's a good chance he'll play this week. You know, it's like the dance in the locker room when he has to talk about how he's feeling well, but he's not like he's probably explicitly told not to give away the fact that he's going to play this week. I mean, he has to get through the week of practice feeling okay, but I would put it at about like 96% chance that he plays this weekend. The Brett Kern thing, you know, it makes sense. You don't need the roster spot, as you said. If somebody gets injured, a spot will open up down the line. I don't think that Anthony Harris is here to be on the active roster. I think he's here just as backup protection. You know, is your expectation that it'll be Kayvon Wallace starting this week?
Presuming Blankenship can't play.
Well, yeah, that's the expectation. That's what I'm asking.
Then yes, I would imagine it's Kayvon Wallace in that case. Are we certain Blankenship's not playing?
We're not certain.
Okay.
We're not certain of anything.
You know what I mean, Bo. Yeah. I mean, are you operating as if he's going to be out, or do you think he's going to be questionable?
I'm guessing that he's going to not play.
Okay.
I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know either. I think there might be a chance. We'll see the practice report when it comes out. I simply don't know. Didn't get a chance to speak to Reed last night. Or I'm sorry, didn't get a chance to speak to Reed today. I was saying
your own
last night.
Son?
Nah.
You're ghosting? You're giving your son the silent treatment?
I speak to my son all the time. I said Reed last night because he was on the Players Lounge show, or not the Players Lounge show. He was on the show with Dave Spadaro, the Green Legion show, I believe it might be. I did not get a chance to hear it. That's what I meant. So I don't know what he might have said there. That's what I was referring to about last night.
I did something very silly yesterday, Marissa, because, you know, like the fact that Zach can rattle off that Reed Blankenship was on like a second tier Dave Spadaro podcast, like not even Dave Spadaro's, normal Eagles Insider podcast. Like he's just running down the list. He's aware of everything. I sent Zach something yesterday afternoon, a link to like an Eagles related thing. It was the Jeffrey Lurie interview on Bloomberg, as like a moron, as if Zach had not already seen it. And he was like, "Oh yeah, I saw it."
Yeah, I saw it 3 minutes after it came out. Come on.
He's like, "This has been up for 3 hours. How slow on the draw are you?"
Don't say it. Come on, we all.
He's got the Google notifications. Remember?
That's right. Yeah, he's got.
Which actually came in handy. Which came in handy about something recently. Congratulations to Nick Sirianni's brother Jay, who is going who's going into his county's athletic hall of fame and joining older brother Mike and father Fran. Nick Sirianni is not yet in the county hall of fame, so you got to wonder what the threshold is for making it. I have been there. I'm not saying the county's name because I would butcher the pronunciation.
You've been to the place, not you've been there and having your brothers also in a Hall of Fame.
No, I have not been there where my brothers are in the Hall of Fame. I have been there to the physical Hall of Fame. I think I'm gonna try it. Is it Chappaqua?
Oh, Chappaqua.
Chappaqua?
No, it's not Chappaqua. Chappaqua is in Western
New York.
Yeah, this is all the way
Pennsylvania.
Yeah, no. This is Western New York.
Western New York. It is
Chappaquiddick.
No. Chautaauqua. How would you pronounce that?
I have
Chautauqua.
Chautauqua. Okay, thank you.
Chautauqua.
Sounds like shiitake mushrooms. That's what I think.
Chautauqua. So sorry about that. I should get the pronunciation.
Chada gonna work here anymore anyway, so it doesn't matter.
But yeah, that showed up in the notifications.
Okay, and any recent hits on the Jennifer Love Hewitt Google alert?
No Jennifer Love Hewitt Google alert.
Okay. All right, Zach, in terms of talking to the coordinators yesterday, working in the locker room, talking to Jalen Hurts today, what stood out to you? What's worth discussing? Discussing, not disgusting.
Well, the Jalen Hurts discussion, we
That's
can
what Jane
save
says
that
when we change your diaper.
because
Disgusting.
that's going to be a full
Yuck.
segment. Before I get to the locker room, I just had to follow up with you about the notes because you have been in touch with the Punalytics folks. It was
I
in
think we're gonna have one of them on the show on Friday.
it was in your story on the day after. We can wait for Friday, but if you can just give our listeners a quick sense of what the Eagles are getting in the punt game here with Kern.
Yeah, I mean the sense is that this guy Brett Kern is like far and away the best punter on the market. He is has been an above average punter and like a top 10 level punter over the past few years, and he was even really good in the preseason. But the Titans opted to go with Ryan Stonehouse, the rookie, who has been really good and has a big leg, so it sort of made sense. What Kern said today that was interesting is, he had a couple potential opportunities at the start of the season that he didn't really think, made sense for his family. Like moving, he's got 3 kids, moving the whole family. I'm reading between the lines. My guess is Buffalo, because obviously they had released,
because he's from Buffalo, so that's interesting.
Yeah,
from Grand Island. Yeah,
but there has not been much turnover at punter this year. He said, I think only New England has changed their punters this year. And obviously this is a unique opportunity to come punt for a 12-1 team this late into the season and jump along for the ride. And he said his oldest son, 13 years old, is a big fantasy football guy now. He's got Jalen Hurts on his team, so he was excited about that. But this is sort of like he had never like thought that this was the end. He always expected that he was going to be coming back, and so this sort of made sense. And he said, as you would expect, like the guy who is presumably the highest rated punter available, when like once Aaron Sipos goes down on Sunday, like his agent calls him like right away, and basically by Sunday night it was done.
So Michael Clay also said that he is a really good holder. So that's something to keep in mind.
Yeah, I asked him, like, is that going to be like, does that take adjustment? Like, how long will that take to get the operation right? And he's like, yeah, we're going to go out there and it'll probably take like 1 or 2 minutes. It's like, Jake's going to tell me how he likes it tilted, and that'll be that.
So it always brings to mind, Doug Peterson took such pride in his holding ability. Doug Peterson was like, back then the backup quarterbacks used to be the holders, and Doug, being a career backup quarterback, was I think Bo has found something more important than our podcast, Marissa, because he looked down at his phone and he started laughing. What is so funny, Bo?
My aunt Karen is watching the show, and she just texted, Salman Rushdie was stabbed in the face in Chautauqua. So there you go. Yeah, you know a little bit more.
Okay. Thank you, Aunt Karen. So
sorry to stop. I mean, let's not make light of it, but I mean,
yeah.
I'm not going to not laugh at that.
Doug Peterson takes a lot of pride in his holding ability. So that always comes to mind in that case. But Brett Kern will help there. On a serious note, what stood out in the locker room? Had a chance to speak to Gardner Minshew, or I got in midway through to Gardner Minshew. Of course, the big news in the football world this week is the sudden passing of Mike Leach, the head coach of Mississippi State, former head coach of Washington State and Texas Tech. And Gardner Minshew was emotional speaking about Mike Leach, and he was giving some stories for him, said he wouldn't be in the spot he is in the NFL without Mike Leach. And then I asked Nick Sirianni about this because I'm always curious. Sirianni's the type of coach who is always looking for little, nuggets of coaching insight and plays. And he said he's watched Leach's offenses throughout the years, and even Leach as a personality, how he is in press conferences and in interviews. And so that was interesting to hear Nick's perspective on that. But my condolences, of course, to everyone who knew him and played for him. And there was a good piece, I should say. There's a handful of good pieces, but I really enjoyed Bruce Feldman's story on The Athletic today about his personal experience with Mike Leach.
Yeah, that's always that's a little delicate, right? Like, are you going to be the first one to go up to Gardner Minshew and ask him to talk about it? Like, you ask him if he wants to talk about it, right? The same goes for Andre Dillard, but it does feel like Gardner Minshew. I mean, there are several quarterbacks of the Leach tree who are of this ilk, but like you asked the question to Gardner Minshew, what got him sort of emotional at the end was that, like, if it wasn't for Mike Leach, I'd be a low level assistant coach probably for Nick Saban somewhere, like getting yelled at. Like, I'm here because he believed in me. So
yeah. So the story there, for those who aren't familiar with the Gardner Minshew story, is when he was transferring from Alabama, he was planning to go to. When he was transferring from East Carolina, he was planning to go to Alabama at one point, not to be a starter there, but essentially to learn from Nick Saban so he could get into coaching. And then I think, as I've seen this in an interview before, in interviews before, the way Mike Leach framed it to him is, do you want to hold a clipboard at Alabama, or do you want to lead the country in passing? And that's kind of how that magical season at Washington State started. And then there's, so much that came after, and he's in the NFL now, and I imagine he'll be in the NFL for a long time. So he was very succinct in saying that, he'd be holding, he'd be getting his butt chewed out by Nick Saban at Alabama right now. And he's so grateful for everything Mike Leach did for him and his family. And he can't put into words the impact that Leach has had on him.
All right, well said. Let's take a little break, come back, talk some Jalen Hurts, and then after that, we'll talk to Kalyn Kaler.
This holiday season, the best deal in wireless can only be found at Mint Mobile. Right now, when you switch to Mint Mobile and buy any 3-month plan, you'll get another 3 months for free. As the first company to sell premium wireless service online only, Mint Mobile lets you order and activate from home with eSIM, while saving on tons of phone plans starting at just $15 a month. I've been using Mint Mobile long before this holiday deal, and I have to say, it's the perfect time to switch. Mint Mobile's best offer of the year is here. For a limited time, buy any 3-month plan and get 3 more months for free. By going online with eSIM and eliminating the traditional costs of retail, Mint Mobile passes significant savings onto you. All plans come with unlimited talk and text and high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and switch easily and effortlessly with eSIM. Or if you need a new device, for a limited time, get 6 months of free service when you buy a select device and plan. Switch to Mint Mobile and get premium wireless service starting at just $15 a month. For a limited time, buy a 3-month Mint Mobile plan and get 3 more months free by going to mintmobile.com/birds. That's mintmobile.com/birds. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/birds. In baseball, what team won the first World Series? Play Sports Trivia Star now and prove your knowledge. Sports Trivia Star is a free mobile trivia game that tests your knowledge in basketball, football, soccer, and baseball. Choose which sport you know the best to test your knowledge. It sounds simple, but the questions increase in difficulty as you progress. Collect a bonus every day you play more. In addition, you'll have an opportunity to test your general sports knowledge with a question of the day from a random sports category. I love playing trivia, so this is so cool because honestly, I don't know much about geography or world history, but sports, that's my area of expertise, so this is so cool. If you like sports like I do, you'll love Sports Trivia Star. Download it today to challenge yourself. Just go to the Apple or Google store and search for Sports Trivia Star. Download Sports Trivia Star for free today and get ready to flex your brain muscles. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Unfortunately, life doesn't come with a user manual. So when it's not working for you, it's normal to feel stuck. Navigating any of life's challenges can make you feel unsure. Whether it's a career change, a new relationship, or becoming a parent, therapists are trained to help you find out the cause of challenging emotions and learn productive coping skills, which makes therapy the closest thing to a guided tour of the complex engine called you. This time of year can be so stressful. The holidays, seeing family, traveling, working. Therapy is so important to get those feelings out and enjoy this time of year. As the world's largest therapy service, BetterHelp has matched 3 million people with professionally licensed and vetted therapists available 100% online. Plus, it's affordable. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to match with a therapist. If things aren't clicking, you can easily switch to a new therapist anytime. It couldn't be simpler. No waiting rooms, no traffic, no endless searching for the right therapist. Learn more and save 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/BWF. That's BETTERHELP.com/BWF.
Great job with those reads, Marissa.
Thank you.
The chat loves when Marissa does the ad reads.
She's great at them. I agree.
I just try to save you guys some time because you guys are busy during the day. So,
I mean,
as
I'm
are
happy
you.
to enjoy
you're
them.
trying to
I
become
know,
the star
but-
of the show. We know what's going on.
you guys are out at the facility and stuff. I'm home, so
There's only
I would
room
come
for
by
one
my-
star on this show.
Trying to Wally
Yes.
Pip us.
Definitely not. I could never do that.
I mean, you definitely could. I think is the actual truth. All right, let's talk a little Jalen Hurts. I think that we have talked around being impressed every step of the way with how much he has improved, and the ways that it has happened. But I just wanted to sort of reframe or go over some of the specifics here, Zach. So some of these numbers are just eye popping, and this is just as a passer, right? This has nothing to do with everything that he brings to the offense and does from a productivity standpoint as a rusher, which is really significant. Last year, so this is throws at least 3 yards down the field. So I'm taking out screens, taking out those quick passes. Last year, so it's a good sample size. 294 passes last year, 264 passes this year. Last year, the time to throw on those throws, 3.27 seconds. This year, 2.79 seconds. That's a pretty significant drop off. And Nick Sirianni, I think, was talking about this today, Zach, when asked about the tangible ways that he has noticed the difference in Hurts in year 2 in a system, something that we talked about throughout the offseason. And Jalen Hurts talked about that this was going to be his first chance since high school to be in the same offense for 2 years in a row. And Nick Sirianni said, what you really notice is the speed that he's processing. And that is playing out in how quickly he's getting rid of the ball. The actual production of those numbers is also crazy in terms of the jump that it's made. Last year, he was completing these passes at a 54.4% clip. This year, he's up to 64.4%, a huge jump. The yards per attempt on those passes have gone from 8.3 to 9.7. And if you want to look at the EPA per attempt, it's gone from 0.22 to 0.42. So we know that he has been better. And I know that it's a little bit tough to disentangle how much A.J. Brown factors in here and just having a better offense in general. But as a passer, and even in the Giants game, there were so many throws in that game where it felt like we would not have seen him make that throw. I'm not even sure we would have seen him make it earlier this season. We talked about the out to Quez Watkins. Nick Sirianni was talking about how impressed he was with that check down to Zach Pascal for 4 yards for a first down on the opening drive. Shane Steichen talked about the third down pass to Devontae Smith on the opening drive, which was pin perfect. Even the throws that he made downfield to Devontae Smith and Miles Sanders, where both guys had a foot out of bounds, were perfect throws. What has jumped out to you in terms of just watching him and where you think that he has improved the most as a passer?
Well, so the first thing I want to say on this topic, because I've been thinking about this, and I was on Chicago radio yesterday, and the question came up: what can the Bears learn or implement?
Now this is separate from the podcast.
This was separate. We had the podcast too, from Jalen Hurts' development. And then we were on the podcast, but this is the answer I gave on the radio. That's why I want to bring it up here. And I've been reading and hearing who's responsible or what's responsible for this jump. And I can't emphasize this enough. The person most responsible for Jalen Hurts getting better this year is Jalen Hurts. Right? Like Jalen Hurts is wired a special way. And it's not like the Eagles found this recipe and every team can duplicate it. The key to this is Jalen Hurts. It's not the offensive line, which is outstanding. It's not it's not continuity with the coaching staff, which is a factor. It's not getting AJ Brown, which has had a big effect. It's Jalen Hurts, right? So you can't take all these conditions and put it in another team. And I asked the question to Jalen Hurts today, what can the league learn from your improvement this year? And his answer was, there's no secret formula. There's no rocket science to it. I just put the work in. Everyone may see certain results, but nobody sees the work. The work has been consistently put in every offseason. He talked about how he learns from every experience, good, bad, and different. And all this might seem cliche. And if I'm talking to the audience now, if you haven't heard Bo's response to a similar type of question on our podcast with the Bears reporters, was Bo said he's kind of getting into the intangible. He's buying the intangibles now a little more after seeing Jalen Hurts. And I think that's a good way to put it, because what's making Jalen Hurts better this year is Jalen Hurts. That's the number one thing. So I want to preface that. To answer the question specifically, the efficiency as a passer is where I've seen the biggest jump. And that a lot of that I think goes into decision making. A lot of that goes into fundamentals. But I just think that he knows where to go, when to go with it. And Jalen Hurts said earlier this season, and it's something I want to explore more, is he said, when I think I asked him about being a dual threat quarterback, and he said he's not a dual threat quarterback, he's a triple threat quarterback. It's his arm, it's his legs, and it's his mind. And I think what has separated him this year is Jalen Hurts' mind, because that is where you're seeing a big difference in terms of the processing, the decisiveness, and where to go with the ball.
That's well said. Let me ask you this. Do you think Jalen Hurts would have a better year if he had the same supporting cast, but he was in the first year of an offense, or if he was in the second year of this offense, but he didn't have AJ Brown?
So can you repeat that? I just want to make sure I answer it well.
Yeah. Would Jalen Hurts be having a better year? All conditions the same, but there's no AJ Brown, and it's Christian Kirk or whatever.
Okay.
Or it's the exact same supporting cast, but he's playing for brand new coach X. In his
third year in the NFL?
His third year in the NFL.
Okay, so we're not taking last. Okay,
right.
So not AJ Brown.
He still had his own development path.
Yeah, I think that his own development path with AJ Brown, but with a different.
Yeah, basically, what matters more, the AJ Brown addition or being in the second year in the offense?
I think the AJ Brown addition and him being another year in the NFL, getting another year to get better, more so than the continuity.
I think so. Offense. I agree with that.
Yeah.
I also have the breakdown here of the directions of the passes, because we talked so much about, he didn't throw to his left a lot last year. That was the Bucs game plan in the playoff game, was to try to force him left. He didn't throw over the middle of the field. And this is it is kind of wild. And I think a lot of this does have to do with AJ Brown, because AJ Brown spends so much time on the left side. But so True Media breaks it down into 7 zones. You've got the sideline, just 3 yards close to the sideline. You've got that area to the numbers. We got the numbers to the hash. You got between the hashes, and then you've got the same stuff on the right side. Hash to numbers, numbers to sideline, sideline out. The biggest jumps he's made are on the left side, right? The left sideline to the left hash, or to the left numbers rather. The percentage of passes that he's throwing that direction jump from 19% to 25%. The left numbers to the left hash have jumped from basically 12% to basically 19%. The middle is still about the same. Between the hashes, he doesn't throw there very often. It's about between 4 and 5%. And then he's also throwing to the right side of the middle of the field, the hash to the numbers, more often this year. And where he's throwing to less is like far to the right, which is where I think he was, he threw there almost a third of the time last year, and it's down to 20% this year. But it's also like, as with everything else he's doing as a passer this year, like the production of those throws has jumped significantly. Like the percentage of the throws to the left side last year, in terms of his completion percentage, were 46.4%. This year, it's 70.8%.
Wow. That's
it's wild. And it's one of those things where like Sirianni and Hurts have been asked about it, and they don't really like acknowledge that this was a thing that they worked on. But it's so clear that like they knew that this was an area of the offense that was not being exploited, and they've like really ratcheted it up this year.
That's a great breakdown, and those numbers tell the story there. And I try to think, because I try to answer these questions better, and like what can be learned from this. And on one hand, you say players can improve, right? A player can get better year 3 than he was year 1, and we've seen that throughout Jalen's career. But I also think it's unrealistic to expect every quarterback's development track to be like Josh Allen or Jalen Hurts. You're right. Frankly, what you see is a quarterback not make this type of improvement, right? Like you can't just say Zach Wilson all of a sudden is going to make this leap into Jalen
and it
Hurts
shouldn't be so linear either.
Yeah,
like it's crazy. He got a lot better from year 1 to year 2, and he got way better from year 2 to year 3. It's like it shouldn't be this predictable. I mean, not predictable is not the word, because it's completely unpredictable, but it shouldn't be this like of a straight line direction.
And I give credit to Jalen also for, even though he hasn't publicly said this to us, right? These improvements show that he recognized there were improvements to make as a passer. There were things he had to do, and he obviously made initiatives this offseason. Bo jokes about how California is this like mysterious place to improve as a quarterback.
Well, I mean, he went to California. So.
Yeah. But there are specific things that this coaching staff sent him to work on this offseason, and he addressed it.
Yeah, and I don't and I mean, you are 100% right that like if you're dividing the turkeys of credit here, Jalen Hurts deserves the vast majority of the credit. And like it has made me like rethink some things, because like the intangible stuff in this case matters a ton. And players can get better in really significant ways, that in ways that you may not have thought they'd be able to get better. I don't know. It's just been really impressive to watch.
And I also think it's fine to acknowledge that he has like improved as a passer. I see some takes. Well, he was always like this. It was. I saw someone
tweet that like this is who he was at Oklahoma. Like, are you nuts?
No, yeah, and this is not who he was when he came into the NFL, and this was not who he was last season. He had flashes that showed he could be this type of quarterback, perhaps. But in order for him to do it on a consistent basis, he has improved. He is better, and. Where I do think getting AJ Brown certainly helps, and this offense. I give credit to the coaching staff for building a system to try to maximize what Jalen does. Environment is a factor in all these situations, but I do think that Jalen just has, whether you want to call it intangibles, whether you want to call it makeup, however you want to frame it, he was determined to get to this point, and he has physical and mental gifts that allow him to do so.
And this is the other part that is a little bit more nebulous, and that I'm not sure like to what degree I believe, but it really does. This is easy to say because the team is 12-1, right? But it really does feel like they have, as a group, like taken on his personality, and like his force of like, pathological commitment to the game has rubbed off on some guys. And I know that he's different behind the scenes than he is with us in front of a mic, but like it really does feel like, and it's also crazy. He's 25 years old and he's wired like this. But it really does feel like his force of personality makes a big difference on the roster.
Yes. And speaking about that person, 2 points there. It was brought up to Jalen today that Miles Sanders' post-game press conference the other day sounded like it came straight from Jalen Hurts. And, Jalen said something to the effect of, when you're a leader, you want to rub off on people, and it's not just what you tell them to do, but like what they see you doing. And then the second thing, as far as his personality, you had in your day after the video of Jalen sitting on the bench and AJ and Quez laughing. And I asked AJ Brown about this video today, and AJ was like, that explains exactly who Jalen is. Like during the game, he is so locked in. And I said, you've been talking to us all year about trying to get him to loosen up, like to have fun and to joke around. And AJ was like, not during the game. Like, that does not happen during the game. So it was interesting to see, but it was a good clip.
What do you think he's going to do? Adam Sandler that MFer? Did he get any Adam Sandler questions in the press conference today?
To Jalen? No,
that's too bad. Okay. All right. Anything else?
But Jalen had the longest answer that he's given since he came to Philadelphia. And that was regarding his day yesterday. He went to multiple places throughout the city, and in giving back and kind of using his platform and being an inspiration for people around the city. And he gave specific stories of how what he does resonates with people and families who take joy in seeing what he does on Sundays to deal with things that are going on in their lives. I don't want to shortchange the answer by paraphrasing it. At some point tonight, I will transcribe the whole thing and maybe I'll put it up on Twitter. But it was poignant to hear, and the day was meaningful to Jalen based on the way he explained it, and having sat through almost every Jalen press conference, trying to make a point of it to always be there. And this was without a doubt the longest answer he has ever given, like times 3 or 4. So, yeah.
There you go. All right. We'll check that out. All right. Well, let's take our other break because we got Kalyn Kaler coming in on the other side. So stick around. We'll be right back on Birds with Friends. You know what really gets my grouse? Cheap razors. The nicks, the cuts, the irritation. Give me a break with that garbanzo beans nonsense. Well, that's where Henson Shaving comes in. Henson Shaving is a family-owned aerospace parts manufacturer that has made parts for the International Space Station and Mars rover, and now they are bringing precision engineering to your shaving experience. Think about that. The ISS and your face, both equally important. Razor blades are shaped like diving boards. Did you know that? And you don't want a Greg Louganis situation on your hands. The longer the board, the more wobble. The more wobble, the more nicks, cuts, and scrapes. A bad shave isn't a blade problem, it's an extension problem. That's why, by using aerospace-grade CNC machines, Henson makes metal razors that extend just 0.0013 inches, which is less than the thickness of a human hair. That means a secure and stable blade with a vibration-free shave. And guess what, people? It gets better. The razor has built-in channels to evacuate hair and cream, which makes clogging virtually impossible. All of this in a little itty bitty razor. Can you imagine the precision of that engineering? Seriously, Henson Shaving wants the best razor, not the best razor business. That means no plastic, no subscriptions, no proprietary blades, and no planned obsolescence. The Henson razor works with standard dual-edged blades to give you that old school shave with the benefits of new school tech. Once you own a Henson razor, it's only about $3 to $5 per year to replace the blades. So, it's time to say NO to subscriptions and YES to a razor that will last you a lifetime. Visit hensonshaving.com/birds to pick the razor for you and use code BIRDS, and you'll get 2 years worth of blades free with your razor. Just make sure to add them to your cart. That's 100 free blades, 100 free blades, when you head to hensonshaving.com/birds and use code BIRDS.
So Saturday night, my wife and I wanted to have a nice dinner, but we were eating at home. We didn't have a babysitter, so we couldn't go out. You know what we did? We had the steakhouse experience in our own home with Omaha Steaks. That's right, we grilled Omaha Steaks, and you can too. The holidays are here. Achieve gifting greatness when you give the gift of perfectly aged, tender, and delicious Omaha Steaks. The steak experts at Omaha Steaks have put together special curated gift packages to help take the guesswork out of gifting and make you a holiday hero. Go to omahasteaks.com and use code BIRDS at checkout to get $30 off your order. Send an assortment of mouth-watering favorites guaranteed to impress, like the legendary Butcher's Cut Filet Mignon, air-chilled boneless chicken, ultra-juicy burgers, and even easy-to-prepare comfort meals that are ready in a flash. Omaha Steaks is ready to ship your order right away, so shop early and beat the shipping rush. Go to omahasteaks.com and use promo code BIRDS at checkout. Omaha Steaks is a gift from the heart, a gift that will be remembered with every unforgettable bite. Order with complete confidence today, knowing you're ordering the very best. Visit omahasteaks.com, use promo code BIRDS at checkout to get an extra $30 off your order.
The holidays aren't all sleigh bells and mistletoe. There's also airports, shopping malls, and dining tables crowded with people, some of which you're glad to see only once a year. Give yourself the ultimate gift of stress-free holiday with Next Evo Naturals fast-absorbing CBD products. Next Evo's Stress CBD Complex Gummies are clinically proven to have 4 times better absorption than standard CBD. No other CBD brand can promise that. I know I am personally so stressed out this time of year, and Next Evo Naturals is so great because it helps with stress, trouble sleeping, and it's fast-acting and absorbs better than any kind of CBD. Next Evo's Smart Sorb technology delivers CBD to your system as little as 10 minutes, unlike any other CBD brands. Help fight holiday stress with Next Evo Naturals Stress CBD Complex Gummies featuring ashwagandha, clinically proven to reduce stress by 70%. Get smarter CBD from Next Evo Naturals and get up to 25% off subscription orders of $40 or more at nextevo.com/podcast. Promo code BIRDS. That's nextevo.com/podcast. Promo code BIRDS.
All right. Welcome back to Birds with Friends. Bo, Zach, and Marissa, joined now by senior writer Kalyn Kaler. Kalyn, and you're rocking the Athletic hoodie.
That's right.
Do you feel like a sellout?
Totally. It's a nice hoodie, though. It's really like some good fleece quality in the inside. It's really nice.
Yeah, they do a good job with those. I think for the new people, we'll see. We'll see what happens come holiday time for the rest of us. But
fingers crossed for our holiday gifts. I'm looking forward to what it's going to be.
Let me know. You'll get like a small tank top or something.
There you go. Zach could use one of those. Kalyn, thank you for spending the time. I guess to start, let's get just your national perspective on the Eagles, what they've done this season, and as you talk to people around the league, what is sort of their perspective on how sustainable this is?
Yeah, I feel like I was just listening to what you guys were talking about earlier, and I'm like, I don't think I really have anything more, wild or interesting or that crazy to add on this, other than, I think it's sustainable personally. And I think, as you guys were mentioning, like, I just keep going back and I'm like, I can't believe this is the same guy who literally transferred to Oklahoma because like he wasn't viewed as a good enough passer. And here we are. And so I just think the whole narrative of this is just so amazing. And I think one thing I was kind of watching at the same time as Jalen Hurts has kind of taken this huge step in development this year was also sort of the development of Tua happening at the same time. And there was a lot of there's a lot of comparisons you can make there. And I think in a lot of conversations I've been having is it's just like, well, look at what can happen when you support your quarterback, your young quarterback with, an elite receiver, because both of these teams, Miami and Philadelphia, made big moves to sign top of the game, elite, best of the best receivers. And while you can't put it all on AJ Brown and all of it on Tyreek Hill, it's very clear that those two guys had a huge impact on helping those quarterbacks take that next step. So I think it's been really interesting to sort of like compare and contrast those two situations. And I feel like maybe with Tua's situation, the coaching is more influential there with his transformation than maybe with Jalen Hurts. I mean, I think obviously I'm not trying to like undersell what Nick Sirianni and Shane Steichen have done there, but sure. I feel like Mike McDaniel may have had, and the way that he changed that offense to structure doing what Tua is best at, I feel like that is more of an impact on Tua's development there. And obviously the last two games of Tua have been a little bit rough, but Jalen, I mean, it is just an incredible story. And I mean, I was listening to what you just said, Zach, about how your opinion is that like, he's the one who did it. And it's not like the Bears can just follow this recipe of, okay, sign an elite receiver, bolster the offensive line, find the right balance in developing Fields as a passer while also continuing to rely on his dual threat rushing ability. So I thought that was kind of interesting because I thought, oh yeah, I mean, Ryan Poles should definitely be just like looking at this and like, okay, we're gonna do exactly the same thing. And they have the cap space to do it. And I think my other takeaway is like Howie Roseman is just amazing. I don't know. He's like literally.
Oh, Howie's gonna love this podcast now.
I mean, if you're listening, Howie, I mean, he's like fleeced everybody. It's just incredible. Like,
well, listen, there's the Ryan Bates trade, which we can still relitigate. We can talk about the KC Tuhill release. There are other things on the docket. That's all right.
Yeah, I mean, I just think like, I mean, if you talk to people around the league about Howie, everyone's like, well, he has to win every trade. Like he has to be the winner of every deal that he makes, which like.
That's why he made the Kerry Vincent trade, Zach. So he could let everybody
throws
know
off the
that he wants to lose a trade every now and then.
He's got to lose a couple just to like stay with his mojo. Yeah. Yeah. So I think like if you talk to people around the league about Howie, like that is like what people bring up. And like that can sometimes be, I don't know if abrasive is the right word or alienating, but it can sometimes rub people the wrong way. But like, obviously you want to win your trades. Like, and I don't know. I just feel like I don't understand really how he's done it, but he has somehow like, I just feel like he's just fleeced everybody and just like completely just dominated the last big, transactions he's been involved in. And I just think it's really impressive. So I think that has a lot to do with it too. No doubt. When you think about like when they first got Jalen, I mean, this is like a whole like, quarterback philosophy thing. Cause wasn't Howie the one who said like, we want to have a
quarterback factory.
Quarterback factory. Yeah.
He got like relentlessly mocked for that.
Yes.
But I mean, is anyone going to mock him for that now? Like I wouldn't. Like it turned out really well for him. And I think like I look at New England when it comes to quarterback philosophies as well. I think New England's another really interesting team to look at. I look at them and I see how I think I was like looking at this when comparing to the Bears. And so the last time like the Bears had drafted a quarterback in the late rounds of the draft, like rounds 4 through 7, I think it was like 2014 or something. And in that same time period, the Patriots had drafted like 5 of them. And, you know, one of those was Jimmy Garoppolo. Another one was Jacoby Brissett, like players they had been able to flip for future value. They got their own value from them when they needed it. And then they were able to flip them into future players. So like, I totally believe like the quarterback factory philosophy is really not a bad one to have if you're building a team. And you can get into a situation like this where, you know, you saw some really good traits in a player, and when he got into your facility, the intangible traits were even more impossible to ignore, to the fact where, and maybe I'm like characterizing this wrong, but you guys are there, but it's like, wasn't Jalen's just like leadership just like out of the park compared to Carson Wentz?
Yes.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like that stuff kind of will just like naturally take place within your team, like survival of the fittest kind of style. So it's like, yeah, I mean, if you just want to collect good quarterbacks or quarterbacks that you see as possibly becoming good, like that's not a bad team building strategy to have, because you can end up in a situation like this where, I mean, Jalen Hurts is completely wowed and surpassed probably all the expectations for him, even within that building.
So you're the perfect person to speak to about this topic, because the quarterback factory line, it came when
you're gonna steal my thing. Go ahead.
I'm sorry,
right.
bud.
No, go ahead. You're right. This is exactly what the next question should be.
You can share it.
Yeah, I was going to ask something this, but I was trying to, you know, in a good interview, what you're doing is you're listening to the answer. You're not just sticking.
Yeah, I understand.
I was going to ask you about Sunday's
This is the correct follow up. I just wanted to let you go.
Yeah. So okay. So the Eagles drafted Jalen Hurts with the intention of him being their backup quarterback. This is an organization that prioritizes backup quarterbacks. I mean, Jeffrey Lurie keeps he's told me he's kept a list next to his bed of organizational or in a drawer next to his bed. Yeah. Of what's required for a strong organization.
Good clarification that he said this and not that you've actually seen it yourself.
And one of the items on the list for a successful organization is a strong backup quarterback. And he actually, when Nick Foles was making that run, he said he wouldn't call him a backup quarterback. He would call him the second starter. And I preface it this way with you because you do the QB2 podcast. You have an expertise in backup quarterbacks, if I can frame it that way. And the Eagles are in a situation now with Gardner Minshew, where Gardner Minshew had a good game last year, and he literally walked into Nick Sirianni's office and said, how can I be the starter here? And the Eagles are going to have to replace Gardner Minshew presumably next year. What do you think is a healthier backup quarterback to have? Someone who is that Doug Peterson type, who he's just there to support the starting quarterback, or someone who's the Jalen Hurts type, or someone of, you know, I would say the Gardner Minshew type, who's really trying to push the guy, and he understands his role as the number 2, but he wants to be the number 1.
Great question. And before I answer it, I'm going to say Gardner Minshew requested him for the podcast and was told he's not doing any media this year because he's really trying to be the backup. Like he's trying to just do his
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I was really surprised because obviously we all know he has a very interesting personality from his time in Jacksonville, when he kind of became a viral quarterback there for a second, with the Jordan mustache and all that good stuff. So yeah, like it's really interesting. So I think he's definitely right now, just based off of that response, I think Gardner has kind of embraced his supporting role there this season, but I do think it's been hard. I would imagine it's been hard for him. To answer your question, I think this season, going into this season when they weren't entirely sure how good Jalen was going to be, I think having Gardner was the right move, because if Jalen was struggling, Gardner would have been there to be, you know, a sort of that veteran backup experience. Has starts under his belt. He knows what he's doing. He's very motivated. So I think that was the right choice for this season. However, going into next year changes everything. I have a story coming out next week about the Bills quarterback room, and I'll use that as sort of a template for what the Eagles should do, because so the Bills have Josh Allen, obviously, and there's no question about who their starter is. It's Josh. He's, one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And I would put Jalen up there now as well in the same kind of realm as a Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson situation. So Patrick Mahomes. So the way that the Bills structured their room this year was Josh had Matt Barkley come back as QB3. Matt Barkley had been there a couple years earlier. And the two of them just got along really well. And Matt Barkley's like 32. And so their QB2 is Case Keenum, who is a veteran. Obviously, he was a starter for 1 year, a surefire starter for 1 year in Denver. He started the previous year with the Vikings.
Eagles fans remember well.
Yeah, has a ton of experience under his belt. So they brought in Case and Matt behind Josh as two veterans who are not in the phase of their career anymore where they are like, I can be a starter. I can be a franchise quarterback. Like Matt knows what he is. He's had opportunities to compete for jobs and it just hasn't worked out for him. Although he, was great at USC. It's just his NFL career has really never panned out. And Case had his shot as a starter as well, 2 seasons. And, he recognizes he's kind of on the other end of that. And they're both very realistic. I've had conversations with both of them. They're both super realistic about where they are in their careers and like how they can contribute and be valuable. So for Josh, like Matt Barkley was saying to me, he's like, there's no tension in our quarterback room because we know where we are and we know how we need to help Josh. And Josh, like no one's wondering who the quarterback here is. Like it's obviously Josh. And I think the Eagles are definitely in that situation now, but as they make changes next year, they're 100% in that situation. So they should think about bringing in some backups who are veteran and like really secure in their identities, who are totally capable of coming in and playing games, if there's injuries, but aren't, that threatening presence to really push Jalen. But instead of pushing him, because I don't think he needs that push anymore, instead of pushing him, it would just be, let me lend you some of the experience that I have that might be helpful to you. And Case was like, yeah, that's incredibly rare. He's like, most quarterback rooms that I've been in are the tense version where the roles aren't super clear and like there's room, multiple people in the room feel like they have the ability and should be starting. So I think that's an interesting concept. And I think, the Eagles model kind of what the Bills did, I think that would work.
That's well said. That makes sense for Case Keenum because he was always a guy who was like probably almost better than the starter where in places where he was.
Yeah. Or he's like getting benched for Nick Foles. Like there was 1 year where he like replaced Nick he replaced Nick, I think. And then
with the Rams, right?
Yeah. And then the next year he got benched for like Jared, I think. I don't know. It was like, he's like, I've been in both. He's like, I've been in like literally every scenario where like I'm either getting promoted or I'm getting demoted. And like, it's always like really close as to who it is. So yeah.
So Zach, you actually didn't ask the question I thought you were going to ask. You asked a better question. That was the natural thought. That was the good QB2 question. I was going to go with the entire Jalen Hurts in Philadelphia experience does not happen if the 5th round pick they had used the year before had panned out and they did not need.
I wasn't going in that direction.
If they did not need a cheap backup quarterback, they would not have drafted Jalen Hurts. They would instead have Clayton Thorson, who was their attempt at a cheap backup, and they cut him after training camp. That's how bad he was. So knowing
he went to Dallas.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, I think that's right. And I think he also spent time with the Giants. So he's almost made his way around the entire division. We do on Birds with Friends, we do peck nest migrate, which is sort of like kill, marry, and not this is not in a physical sense, but from a Northwestern quarterback perspective, who would you want as your quarterback? Peck nest migrate, Trevor Siemian, Clayton Thorson, Mike Kafka.
Kafka.
You would nest Kafka?
Oh, okay. Sorry, I have to put.
Sorry. Nest is like the long-term quarterback. Peck is you get him for a year. Migrate is cut.
There you go. Okay. Migrate Thorson. Sorry.
Clapping, thipping. Yep.
Yeah.
Thorson was there when you were there, right?
No, I was Trevor.
Okay.
I'm like exact Trevor.
Okay.
Trevor and I were the same class. So I was like Kane Coulter, Trevor Siemian era. Dan Purcell was my starter my freshman year.
Okay.
Great guy. Okay. I'm torn because Trevor has more starts than Mike Kafka ever did. I don't know. Did Mike Kafka ever even start a game in the NFL?
I don't believe so.
Yeah.
Not with the Eagles, at least.
Yeah. But he's like a good coach now. So it's like, does the coach brain help you more long term?
That's a good question. I mean, Siemian, give the guy some love.
Yeah, and he could be a coach someday. You never know. Okay, so I'll go Nest, Trevor, Peck, Kafka.
All right, I like that. You're right, but that is the sliding doors, right, Zach? If Thorson is an okay backup quarterback, there's no Jalen Hurts.
You are actually correct about that, right? I mean,
For once,
they view Thorson that year as a developmental number 3, and the purpose of it was to eventually take over for Sudfeld, and then Sudfeld goes down that year in training camp, and Thorson was just so bad in training camp that they brought Josh McCown out of the TV booth to be the backup quarterback, right? So it was lined up for Thorson.
That was 2020, right?
Yes, no, that was 2019.
That was 2019.
Oh,
okay,
and then 2020 is when they drafted Hurts.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
And then 2020 was when McCown was like a quarantine quarterback in Texas, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And then got signed to the Texans.
Houston. Yeah.
Okay. No, he started off though as the quarantine quarterback for the Eagles.
Right.
Yeah,
and then they signed him to their active roster, and they were so proud of the quarantine.
Yes, exactly. They were.
As you do with anybody you're going to interview, you ask around for if there are any good questions to ask. So Kalyn, I've been told to ask, how good are you at jump rope?
Oh, very good. It's one of my actually, speaking of quarantine, I picked it up in quarantine because I couldn't go to the gym anymore. So I just bought a jump rope, and I have an Irish dance background. So I'm good at jumping and
light on your feet.
Yeah. And footwork. So, I jump rope all the time now. And I could do the crisscross and the sideways thing and lunging and jumping. And it's really fun because every time you jump rope, you can just kind of make something up. But I'm not like the TikTok people. I don't know if you've seen the people on TikTok who are
no,
absolutely insane. They don't even really jump. They're throwing the rope around and contorting their body. I don't do that stuff. I'm actually still jumping with rhythm. But the TikTok people, I mean, that's goals. I actually looked into joining a jump rope team, but I couldn't find one in my area. So I don't know if you're listening to this and you know of a adult jump rope team that is in Chicagoland, let me know.
Have you had any discussions with your downstairs neighbor about your jump roping habits?
I don't do it in my apartment. I will I will either go outside or I will go, now that's winter, we have a fitness center on the top floor. I'll go there. So I don't know who lives underneath that floor, but I think there's a cushion floor underneath the fitness center.
Okay.
So I think I'm good.
And so when we say good, if this was one of those elementary school competitions for how long you could last.
Oh, yeah, probably.
A very long time.
Yeah, except I don't really I've never counted because I'm always trying new stuff. So I mess up all the time. So I don't actually know how long I could just do that.
That's a good, I feel like Zach would appreciate that philosophy. Always try something.
Yeah.
That's how you get better, right, Zach?
Absolutely. It's the only way to get better. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm curious. Well, I'm curious, and our audience will be curious too. I think more our audience than me here. For those, I hope everyone followed you when you were at the Defector and at Sports Illustrated Monday Morning Quarterback. But for those who are just becoming familiar with your work now, when we hear senior writer, national writer, it can go in a lot of different directions. Sheil was on this podcast for a long time. He did the job of one way. What kind of work can our audience expect from you in the coming weeks, months, and years? Yeah.
So as an example, since I finished it, I can say it out loud now. It's not that crazy, but Friday I have a story coming out about what it's like to be a rookie in Aaron Rodgers' offense. And I started it before Christian Watson became an offensive rookie of the year candidate. and tried to ruin my story idea. I was like, oh my God, why is he doing this? I
He
saved
must have been so like oh, I'm doing this, but I'm ruining Kalyn's idea. Yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah.
literally, the first sentence is Christian Watson tried to ruin this story
Yeah.
idea.
I
So
like that.
yeah, I was like, it's kind of edgy. Like, I'll keep it. And then I didn't know if the editors would like it, but they kept it. So I guess it passed. So that's a good example of something where it's like, I'll be curious about one specific thing that like maybe, other people just don't have the time to dive into. And I'll be like, okay, I'm going to call everybody who's been a rookie with Aaron Rodgers. I'm going to call as many of those people as I can, of those receivers and tight ends and things like that, and like find out what it was like. So something like that. And then like the Bills QB room story that I just mentioned, just kind of like diving into specific things. I like to investigate things a lot. So I did like a quick Favre investigation with Katie Strang in September. And so hopefully I'll have some more kind of like NFL nefariousness things to look into. There's no shortage
Of which there is plenty.
Those are Bo's favorite stories, by the way.
Yeah, there is no shortage of that for sure. So definitely things like that where, or something that will just kind of like stick out to you is like, oh, that was odd. Like I want to look into that. Like I'm like, should I do something about like players faking injuries? I mean, it's been happening for as long as the NFL really has existed, but now we're seeing discipline for it. And I'm really curious, like, how do coaches coach that? Like, what type of injury are you supposed to fake? Like, what's the most believable injury to fake? And like,
cramps.
how do you, yeah, like, and like, how do you do it? And like, what's the signal from the sideline? Things like that. So, yeah, I think that's kind of what I do is just sort of like interesting things and really go deep on them.
I think.
Well, I'll say real quick, one of my favorite Kalyn stories, it's tangentially related to the Eagles and what's happening this weekend, but it's inside the Bears kicking search, right, from 2019.
Right. Yes.
And that was, in essence, fallout from the Eagles-Bears game that year in the playoffs with the double doink, and that happens to be the last time the Eagles were in Chicago before this weekend's game.
God,
so
yeah.
it all kind of ties in together to having you on this week.
Wow, I will never forget that game.
You really pulled that together, Zach. That was nice.
That was nice. Wrapped it all.
I'm here for it, Bo.
Yeah. I was gonna say the Raquel Armstead story. It's one of my favorite stories that we've had on the site the entire football season. So everybody should check that out if they haven't.
Yeah, that was a sad but fun one.
Any big Chicago recommendations for us this weekend?
Let's see.
What a silly question. It's a huge city. There's a million things to do.
Where are you guys? Are you staying downtown?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we should get drinks first of all or something. Like we should like hang out.
Great.
RPM Italian, great restaurant.
Okay.
Love it. Or RPM steak. Any of the RPMs are really good. There's a steak, a seafood, and an Italian one. And they're all kind of downtown.
Okay.
Gibson's also really good steak. I'm just gonna name steak places.
Zach just did a steak ad read, so you might as well.
Yeah, that's probably why my brain is on it.
Yeah.
I like All Cheval, the burger spot. That's one of my favorites in Chicago.
Too. It's really
and we have to give a shout out to Candlelight, right?
We do have to give a shout out to the Candlelight. Yeah. We have a mutual friend, Zach and I have a mutual friend whose uncle owns a bar restaurant in Rogers Park, which is like a northern neighborhood of Chicago. It's called the Candlelight, and they have really good pizza.
Nice.
And a cookie skillet.
Yep. Yeah. Cookie skillet. All the stuff there is.
For the audio listeners, Zach's the smile on Zach's face when he mentioned the cookie skillet is exactly what you would expect.
Cookie skillets are not always like, I thought they were good everywhere, but I was at Giordano's a couple of weeks ago, which is like a deep dish place. It was literally like frozen. Like we didn't cook it fully. I was so disappointed.
Zach, what's the best cookie skillet you've ever had?
My Uncle Steve makes a great cookie skillet. Yes.
It's never an actual thing. It's like the cameos when I ask for your favorite, person named Nick, and it's just someone who you went to high school with. Oh, this reminds me. Okay, this is how we can close the show. Kalyn, how many numbers, like phone numbers, do you remember from your childhood? And is it more than like phone numbers you remember?
My house
now? Yeah.
My house, my mom's cell phone, which is the same.
Okay.
My grandma's cell phone, maybe my grandpa's cell phone. I think my friend Emily's landline.
Okay, that's a good one.
Damn, I like if this was like 5 years ago, I think I would still have remembered like 6 different landlines of my friends.
Okay.
So I'd say maybe 5 or 6.
Okay, that's pretty good. Zach, would you like to fill us in on the phone
No,
numbers you remember from high school or
No,
from
you gotta
your childhood, please?
You gotta pay money to Cameo for charities, right? In order to get that story. Yes.
Marissa, do you want to?
All right, so for some context here, we were doing a Cameo the other day, and this came up because all sorts of things come up on the Cameos, and Zach made a comment that he still remembers the phone numbers of girls from middle school that he used to call asking about homework.
And he would call and listen to this move. He would
Yeah.
call pretending to not know the homework assignment and ask what the homework assignment was.
Which we all know Zach knew the homework assignment.
Wow.
Right.
And then did you have to go into your like phone book that you got from your school to like find them?
No, he remembered the numbers. He still knows them to this day.
He could still give you like 5 numbers of girls he was calling in like 6th
call them
grade.
right now and see who answers?
No, we're not gonna do that.
There's a Katie in there.
Bo, come on, Bo.
Do it live. I'm ready. I'll start 67 it. What was it? 67? Is that how
Zach was wondering the science homework tonight.
do you know the math assignment? We forgot.
It's Casey's birthday today. We gotta get rolling here.
You're right. Okay. All right. Well, that'll do it for this episode of Birds with Friends. Kalyn, thank you so much for taking the time. Hopefully we'll get to see you in Chicago this weekend. And thanks to everybody for listening and watching. So for Zach, Marissa, and Kalyn, and all of Zach's elementary school flings, I'm Bo. We thank you for listening. We'll talk to you on Friday. And as always, we love you.